Ferris Bueller's Day Off is just one of the wonderful John Hughes films. The nostalgic story about an admirable high school senior breaking the rules and living his best life has excited people since 1986. Released on June 11th, 1986, this was one summer blockbuster everyone was waiting to see. On opening weekend, the movie made just over $6 million. Considering Hughes wrote the script in 6 days on the brink of a writer's strike, it was pretty impressive. Starring lesser-known people, this film was either going to hit or miss, and since we're still talking about it now, I'm pretty sure it wasn't a miss. The stars of this movie were specifically chosen by John Hughes himself. Many other actors that we will discuss in later slides wanted the lead roles of Ferris, Cameron, and Sloane. However, the 3 people you see here were chosen specifically for these roles, and it's a good thing they were, because you couldn't have picked better people to be the faces of teenage freedom. Minor characters can be even more important than the major characters at some points. The four major minor characters pictured to my right included Jeannie Bueller, played by Jennifer Grey, Ed Rooney, played by Jeffrey Jones, Garth Volbeck, played by Charlie Sheen, and the economics teacher, played by Ben Stein. Let's take a moment to analyze the more common minor characters, Jeannie and Rooney. Jeannie, as Ferris's sister, gave us a good understanding of how frustrating Ferris can really be. If you have siblings, I'm sure you know just as well how annoying it can be when they get away with something you wouldn't dream of doing. This is important for a lot of the character development of Ferris and Jeannie. Rooney, however, played the antagonist, which added not only comedic effect, but a plot as well. And just like Rooney, Ben Stein added comedy, and although he's only in one scene, it's still one of the most famous scenes of the movie to date. Now, you may be confused. Garth Volbeck, he was never given a name in the movie. Charlie Sheen was just the guy in the police station who got busted for drugs. He didn't have a name, he was only in one scene, and he enlightened Jeannie by telling her that worrying about what her brother is doing shouldn't change what she does. But you may think there was no Garth. But wait, there's actually a backstory. It was in the original script that Garth was supposed to be Ferris's friend who had a troubled home life. Ferris wanted to help him, but Garth ended up dropping out of school. This potentially explains why Ferris is so determined to show Cameron a good time. He doesn't want Cameron to end up like Garth. The story of Garth Volbeck is not well known, but it was included in the original script, and it's just another quick tidbit. To get the arrested look of Garth, Charlie Sheen actually stayed awake for more than 48 hours before the shoot. Rejected cast, one of my favorite parts. Rob Lowe, Michael J. Fox, John Cusack, Robert Downey Jr., Jim Carrey, Tom Cruise, and Johnny Depp all wanted to be Ferris Bueller. However, like I said earlier, Hughes wrote the script with Broderick in mind, and Broderick seemed to be the perfect role. With Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Hughes wanted different actors, like actors you hadn't seen before. He did invite Emilio Estevez, who played Andrew in The Breakfast Club, to play Cameron, but Emilio Estevez turned down the role because he thought it wasn't a big enough part. Yet Molly Ringwald, Claire in The Breakfast Club, wanted to be Sloane. After auditions, Hughes didn't feel she was the right fit, and according to Hughes, Mia Sara had more elegance, and that's why she got the part. Speaking of The Breakfast Club, there's one cool thing that relates to most of the John Hughes films. Glenbrook North High School. Hughes always filmed high school scenes at Glenbrook North because this was his own high school. Both Ferris Bueller and The Breakfast Club had been filmed at Glenbrook North High School in Northbrook, Illinois. Moving on from old movies, let's talk about the newer stuff. In the 90s, a TV spin-off titled Ferris Bueller was created, and it had no affiliation with John Hughes or the original movie. However, to keep continuity, they poked as much fun as they could at the movie. Within the first 5 minutes, Charlie Schlatter, who played Ferris, mentioned Matthew Broderick by name and sliced a cardboard cutout of him with a chainsaw. Quoted, "But come on, Matthew Broderick as me? No way. He's too white bread, too two-dimensional, too tootsie goodbye." Chainsaw noises. A little extra if you ask me, but they wanted to get the point across that Matthew Broderick was just acting out Ferris's life, and Jennifer Grey was just acting out Jeannie's. Instead, for the sitcom, they chose a different Jennifer. Jennifer Aniston played the frustrated older sister, but a much more conventional girly girl type. You know how girls can be. The writers also started the ongoing nose job jokes, like those in the sitcom Friends, based upon Aniston's real nose job. Ferris Bueller was an okay and funny show while it lasted, but it was only one season, of course. Sequels are usually worse anyway, right? But speaking of sequels, there were a few being talked about where Ferris was in college, but because of the accepted fact that sequels are always a bit rough around the edges, it never came to fruition. Now, on to some more fun stuff. The massive parade. It's probably one of the most well-known scenes of the entire movie, but it wasn't actually a parade set up for the movie. It was von Steuben Day, and just as an FYI, von Steuben was a helper German in the Revolutionary War. This parade was for him, and Hughes saw the parade and wanted to be a part of it. Of course, the head of the parade agreed, and most of the excited, non-choreographed people were actually just parade goers. This includes the dancing construction workers and the window washer. Keep an eye out for them in the movie. The people were just listening to the music and dancing on their own, and Hughes thought it would be great to put into the movie, which it was. And I'm sure all the excited people loved Ferris's lip-synced version of Danke Shane. But we can't forget the other song he sang, Twist and Shout, by the Beatles. This was his second song, and what it had to do with von Steuben Day, I don't honestly know. But the Beatle himself, Paul McCartney, actually complained about it, saying that there was too much brass, which there was. Listening to the two songs back-to-back earlier today, there was definitely more brass in the Ferris Bueller version, but that being said, it wasn't bad, it just wasn't the Beatles' style. All the crowd people still liked it. If anyone likes cars, they probably know what a Ferrari is. For me, if you put a few expensive cars in a row and asked me to name the Ferrari, I couldn't. But this Ferrari was a special Ferrari, and that's because it wasn't one. A real Ferrari at the time was too expensive, so they made this Ferrari out of fiberglass and an MG chassis. Oh, and there were 3 of them. Can you believe even cars have stunt doubles? That's kind of crazy. But it's also kind of crazy that each license plate in the movie was a cryptic abbreviation. The Ferrari was the only one with a regular word that read nervous, without an E. And that's because of Cameron being so nervous. And the rest of them were just little abbreviations for different Hughes movies. Ferris's mom's plate read VCTN for National Lampoon's Vacation, which was the only one that came out before Ferris Bueller. Ferris's dad's read M-Mom for Mr. Mom. Jeannie's read TBC for The Breakfast Club. And Ed Rooney's car read 4, the number 4, FBDO for Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Ferris does not have a car, and he complains much about. He doesn't have an interesting hidden license, but he did get a computer. More importantly, he had a synthesizer, which in 1986 would have cost about $8,000. This slide is just one of a bunch of little pictures that I put together while I talk about a couple of other fun facts. First of all, Ferris's room was like a junkyard. He had plenty of things in there, but when a crew member mentioned the clarinet in the corner, Broderick said he could play it, and he couldn't. The short clarinet scene was improvised, and it made it into the final movie. And while we're on the topic of improvisation, there was also a few more scenes that were improvised. While Cameron talked to Rooney over the phone as Sloane's dad, Rooney and Grace, the secretary, their movement was all improvised. Hughes said he just wanted the scene to be frantic, so they improvised by going in between the 2 offices and just being goofs. It came out well, and they got it done in 1 take, not something that we do here often. 2 for good measure. And another type of improv, flirting. During shooting, love was in the air because not only did Ferris's parents get married in real life a little while after the shoot, Matthew Broderick and Jennifer Grey also got briefly engaged after filming Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's a little wonky how people meet, but neither couple ended up staying together. But of course, that's what happens in show business. The show must go on. And speaking of the show going on, I think it's just about time to turn on the movie. Oh, I gotta get home.